Hi everybody, I'm Lucienne, and this is Ty, and I have decided to go the route of Proud Mamas and Out of Ideas vloggers everywhere and interview a reader.
It's 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
Hi everybody, I'm Lucienne, and this is Ty, my son. I went the route of Proud Moms and Out of Idea vloggers everywhere and decided to interview my son, who is a huge, huge reader and has kindly agreed to get his nose out of a book to come interview with me and out of writing his own book. However, our dog did not agree not to lick his face during this interview, so let's see how far we get. So, Ty, I would love to talk to you about what you would like to see more of in books. I know you're a huge reader, and maybe you could talk a little bit about that and what appeals to you.
Definitely what I want to see, like, first thing in YA fiction, is a lot more geared towards boys. I mean, there have been a few series. I'm gonna throw out Hunger Games, and Percy Jackson's the only one I've seen that's more marketed towards boys than girls. But even that,
And that's more middle grade.
that's a little more middle grade, but it's still a good series. Yeah, I've even known adults to read it, so it's definitely a good series.
Yeah.
But most of it generally is geared towards girls. I mean, even the Hunger Games, while it did appeal to boys and girls, it definitely did seem a little more geared towards the female gender.
Okay. And it seems like there are more middle grade series like Percy Jackson, like Harry Potter, that are geared toward boys, but then it seems like we lose out on that a little bit more when we get to the young adult field. And as you said, there seems to be more geared toward girls. Do you think we lose boys at a certain point, and why do you think that might be?
I think we lose boys at a certain point because there's you hit a point where all the good books for guys stop being on level. You know, you've read all these books, you've read your Harry Potters and your Percy Jacksons, and you're too old for them now. And and then you try to find a good YA book for guys, and you get nothing. You get Hunger Games and possibly Divergent, and because I've heard that's a great one, but I haven't personally read it myself yet. But yeah, you get those two, but that's it. There's pretty much nothing in that field.
Well, I wouldn't say nothing. I
Well,
mean, there's
pretty
Buried
much.
Alive as I
There's-
Hunt
yeah.
Killers, and there's a bunch of other things
There's
that
a some, but
I
it's
have
not.
been trying to
yeah.
get him to read, and maybe you, dear readers, can help me out here because he gears more towards science fiction and fantasy, which is awesome. And let me tell you, the Percy Jackson and the Harry Potter, as you all probably know, can be read at any age. But we got to get him a little bit more into some more mysteries or thrillers, which is, I think, where there's a little bit more for boys. I don't know why there isn't as much science fiction, fantasy, paranormal for boys out there.
It's a good mysteries and thrillers. I've tried to get into them, but my problem is it drives me crazy to at least not have a little more information. So that's why I've never enjoyed. I mean, like Sherlock Holmes stories are okay and they're pretty good, but I've never been a big mystery thriller type because it's just I like going in having a little more information. I mean, at least with like the Percy Jackson series, I went in even though I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. I had a very good basis in the Greek mythology type section, so at least I got a lot more of the references that were made.
So, in other words, you'd be more into techno thrillers where you're getting the science and the suspense than an
Yes.
investigation where the information is in clue form and you gather it as you go along rather than getting information and action up front.
Oh, I don't want they slap the whole thing on you and then go back and try to explain it. I do like a little bit of the mystery, but I like to go in at least having a base knowledge of what's going on of the source material.
Oh, okay.
But-
Are there any books, whether they're young adult or not, that you would like to recommend to readers?
Well, I've mentioned a lot of the Hunger Games series. Great series, appeals to both genders. Great story. Percy Jackson definitely, and its follow-up series, those are great. And the follow-up series is still running. I think it's on its fourth. Its fifth book is coming out soon. Those two series are great. Well, again, Harry Potter. That's another great one.
Yeah, you've read Tolkien, you've read all the Lord of the Rings novels and The Hobbit.
Those are. I'm not sure I would recommend those for people who aren't who haven't hit their middle school language arts class, your 7th and 8th grade classes, language arts classes yet, because before then you're not really experienced with your the older style of writing, like what you see in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Okay.
Because it's a great. I'm not even going to get into the. It's difficult to read, not just because of the, Tolkien's idea of explaining everything. I mean, taking a step. He can explain taking a step. And
So
it
in
takes
other
a
words,
full
you
page.
can't have too much information.
You can,
Okay.
but it's you've pretty much got to be J.R.R. Tolkien to be able to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, not even getting into that style of writing, it's a little hard to read at first. I mean, once you get past like the first chapter or two, you're used to it. But if you haven't read books like that before, or if you don't, you've never been experienced to that kind of talk, it can get a little difficult to understand.
Okay.
But so definitely, I'd read, like, Alice in Wonderland is a good place to start before you read Lord of the Rings, I think, just because it gets you used to that language.
And what are you reading now?
Currently, I'm reading Origin by Jessica Corey. That's a good one.
And what book would you say you've read probably the most over and over and over again?
Ooh, that's a tough one. God, I read so many over and over.
I know. Personally,
Oh my
I'd have to
God.
say I think it's Patient Zero because that book is falling apart.
Well,
Patient Zero by Jonathan Maybury, I
that's
know was read
actually-
at least 7 times.
No,
No?
3. The only
Oh,
reason
you've
it's
read it more than 3.
I've only read it 3 times.
Okay. The Aragon books by Christopher Paolini, you've read and enjoyed?
Yes. Don't listen to my language arts teacher on that one.
So is there any
Yeah.
final thing that you want to tell our viewers?
Read.
Read.
And
there you go. And you're king of the fish people? That's what you told me. I don't know. I
Oh.
don't vouch for this because I am not queen of the fish people, which would make him prince of the fish people anyway. Let's start over. Is there anything final that you would like to tell our viewers?
Read.
Read. That's good words to live by. All right, Darth Ty. Say goodbye to everybody.
Adios.
Goodbye,
No.
everybody.
Adios. Oh.